Hey there, real estate investors. Today we're diving into something that's preventing more people from building wealth through real estate than almost anything else. And it's not about finding good deals. I'm talking about the credit score threshold effect. See, in real estate investing, there are these critical credit scores thresholds that completely transform what's possible for you as an investor. Cross these thresholds, and suddenly doors open that were firmly shut before. I discovered this reality the hard way during my journey. After buying my first few properties between 2018 and early 2020, I hit a wall. Not because I couldn't find good deals, but because my credit profile wasn't optimized for real estate investing specifically. Today, I'm breaking down the exact credit thresholds that matter for investors, what happens when you cross them, and most importantly, the strategic approach to credit optimization that completely transformed my ability to scale my portfolio. This isn't about generic credit advice you can find anywhere. It's about engineering your credit profile specifically for real estate investment capital access. Let's dive in. Let me show you something that most real estate educators never talk about: the actual credit score thresholds that transform your investing possibilities. For real estate investors, these thresholds are dramatically different than what matters for regular consumers. The first major threshold is 680. Below this score, most conventional investment property loans are simply unavailable to you. You're limited to hard money, private lending, or cash, all which significantly impact your returns. The second threshold is 720. This is where investment property loan pricing improves significantly. Crossing from 719 to 720 can mean a difference of a half or 0.5% to 0.75% in interest rate, which translates to thousands of dollars per year on a typical investment property. The third threshold is 740. At this level, you're now eligible for the best conventional investment property rates, reasonable down payment requirements, and multiple property approvals. And fourth, the threshold is 760 to 780. This is where you gain access to portfolio lenders who can approve 10 plus properties, specialized investment programs, and the most favorable terms available. Now, here's the critical point: 20-point difference in your credit score that moves you across one of these thresholds can literally determine whether a deal is profitable or not. Let me show you a real example from my own experience. Here's a duplex I analyzed in 2020. With a 715 credit score, the best financing I qualified for had a 5.75% interest rate and required 25% down. Just 10 points higher at 725, the same lender offered 5% interest and 20% down. That small credit score difference changed my cash on cash return from 8.2% to 11.7%, a massive improvement that made the difference between a mediocre deal and a great one. And this happens at every threshold level. The impact on your wealth building potential is enormous. Here's where most investors go wrong with their credit strategy. They follow general consumer credit advice, which is almost entirely wrong for real estate investors. General credit advice focuses on minimizing all debt, having just a few credit accounts, and avoiding any new credit applications. But for real estate investors, this approach is completely backwards. Let me explain why. First, investment property lending evaluates your credit profile very differently than consumer lending. The algorithms and models used are entirely different, with different emphasis on factors like account mix, utilization patterns, and inquiry types. Second, as you acquire properties, your credit profile naturally changes in ways that can actually hurt your score if you're not strategically countering these effects. Third, most investors don't understand how to properly sequence credit applications to minimize scoring impact while maximizing approval odds. And few investors know how to properly leverage business credit to separate personal and investment activities, which is crucial for scaling beyond a few properties. I learned all this the hard way. After my first few properties, my score had dropped from a high 700s to around 680, right at the critical threshold where financing options become severely limited. It wasn't because I had late payments or credit problems. It was because I didn't understand how to structure my credit profile specifically for real estate investing. After hitting this wall, I spent months researching how the credit scoring models actually work for investors specifically. What I discovered changed everything about my approach. I developed a systematic method to engineer my credit profile specifically for real estate investing. Within 60 days, I had boosted my score from 680 to over 800 across all three bureaus. More importantly, I maintained that optimized profile even as I continued acquiring properties. Here are the key elements of the strategic approach I developed. First, you need to understand account mix optimization. For investors, having the right combination of revolving installment and business credit accounts is crucial and is very different from what most credit advisors recommend. Second, you need to master utilization cycling. This involves strategically adjusting your revolving credit utilization at specific times of the month to maximize your score during application windows. Third, you need to implement inquiry management techniques, including disputing inappropriate inquiries, timing applications for proper grouping, and leveraging soft pull options whenever possible. Fourth, you need to master the balance transfer strategy that allows you to maintain optimal credit metrics even while carrying investment-related balances. And fifth, you need to develop a strategic credit application sequence that minimizes scoring impact while maximizing your available capital for deals. Let me give you a specific example of how this works. On my fifth property, I was initially quoted financing at 5.65% with 25% down because my score was hovering around 705, just below that critical 720 threshold. I paused the application and implemented my credit optimization strategy. 3 weeks later, my middle score had jumped to 742. I reapplied with the same lender and received a 4.875% with a 20% down. That 3-week delay saved me over $27,000 in the first 5 years of ownership, all from a strategic credit adjustment that took just a few specific actions. Now, here's what most investors struggle when they try to implement this type of strategic credit optimization. The challenge isn't understanding the general concepts. The challenge is implementing the specific timing, sequencing, and tactical actions in the right order. Credit bureaus don't make it this easy. They intentionally keep their exact algorithms complex, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about how credit actually works. There's also the reality that what works for regular consumers is often precisely the wrong approach for real estate investors who need to optimize for multiple property acquisitions. I spent hundreds of hours researching, testing, and refining my approach before I developed a system that consistently produces results across different credit profiles and situations. What I discovered is that there's a precise sequence of actions that work specifically for real estate investors. First, you need to audit your current credit profile against investment lending criteria specifically, not general credit scoring methods or models. Next, you need to implement targeted adjustments in specific order based on what will move the needle fastest for your particular situation. And then you time these adjustments around statement dates and reporting cycles, not just due dates. After that, you address any inappropriate inquiries or reporting errors using proven dispute techniques developed specifically for investors. Finally, you implement a maintenance strategy that preserves your optimized profile even as you acquire properties. This systematic approach is what allowed me to access up to $350,000 of capital at 0% interest within 6 months, with $200,000 of that coming in just 4 to 6 weeks after implementing the system. I've worked with enough investors to know that there are two types of people watching this video. Some of you are DIY minded and want to implement these strategies yourself. You're willing to put in the time, learn the system, and execute it step by step. Others want faster results and prefer to have expert guidance through the process, especially when it comes to something as important as your credit profile, which impacts every deal you ever do. For those who prefer the DIY approach, I've created a comprehensive guide called the 0% Interest Capital Blueprint 60-Day Credit Optimization Roadmap. It breaks down my complete system with day-by-day actions, template letters for removing inquiries, and exact sequencing strategy I use to boost my score and access significant capital. For those who want more personalized support, I developed a specialized credit optimization program specifically for real estate investors. Unlike generic credit repair services that don't understand investor needs, this program is designed specifically to help you unlock investment capital quickly through strategic credit engineering. This program has helped dozens of investors cross the critical thresholds we talked about, resulting in better financing terms, more approved properties, and ultimately stronger returns on their investments. What makes this approach different is that it's built specifically for the needs of real estate investors. We focus on optimizing your profile for investment property lending criteria, not just general consumer credit scores. To wrap things up, remember this. In real estate investing, Your credit score isn't just a number, it's a direct lever that controls your access to capital, the terms you receive, and ultimately the returns on your investments. The difference between a mediocre and an optimized credit profile can mean tens of thousands of dollars per property over the life of your investments. I encourage you to take this strategic approach to your credit, especially if you're serious about building a substantial real estate portfolio. Do you use your blueprint I created or work with us directly through the credit optimization program? The key is to approach your credit as a critical investment tool, not just a passive score. The links to both options are in the descriptions below. Take a look and choose the approach that best fits your situation and goals. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.